A stagecoach converted to a hearse is mired in the mud here, minus one wheel. Once this was a one-hearse town. Now it's a no-hearse town. One of Hyman Untertaker's coffins is lying in disrepair off near Reboot Hill. It looks like a cedar model number 7. Eternal slumber and no moths. You slowly open the coffin.
Say, you ought to do something about that coffin.
A variety of polypetalous green, fleshy, spiny members of the family Cactaceae grow in spurts around the foundation of the church. Aren't you sorry you asked?
Why would I be sorry about learning something new? In fact, one of the things that I enjoy about doing these Let's Plays is that there are usually people who are a lot more knowledgeable about these games than I am. And it's always nice to learn new and interesting things about them. And I've been learning some new and interesting things about this game.
The stained glass windows are miraculously intact. You can't look through the keyhole. It's blocked. This is the Reverend Cy Hallelujah's church. Nobody's going in or out. What with everyone leaving town, the Reverend seems to have lost his following. Yep, he's been deflocked.
Well, it looks like we are able to go in. There seems to be someone inside, as there is an organ player in there somewhere. As this place got slightly louder as we open the door.
Taking a serious look at yourself, you decide you like what you see.
Alright, I was aiming for the candles, but while we're here...
Ah, scratching right there sure feels good, eh, Freddy? These little self-introspective chats are fun, aren't they, Freddy?
Alright, now that's over.
The candles in the church foyer are glowing with a holy light. Score! You would never dream of stealing a candle from a church, but they wouldn't miss one of those puddles of candle wax. There seems to be something in the lock. You wisely reconsider your idea of pushing on the stained glass to see if it's still in good shape. Score! You take the key to the church. A creaky old windmill tower, haphazardly assembled from rotting timbers, graces the beautiful coarse gold skyline. A squeaky old sheep weather vane turns gently on top of Reverend Hallelujah's house. Perhaps he's trying to get people to join his flock. Reverend Cy Hallelujah lives here. The Reverend's house is locked and shuttered. Has he left town? Who's running the church? A gnarled old tree stretches above the old abandoned synagogue. A wrought iron and stone archway beckons all to Reboot Hill. Perhaps you'll be the next occupant. Are you scared yet? Huh?
Not really. Now, some of these transitions to the next screen are slightly awkward. Come on, Freddy. Right. There we go.
This is a credit. These weren't actually found in coarse gold in the 1880s, but if they were, they'd have looked a lot like this one.
Nidoking mentioned that if you examine the credits or interact with them, you usually get some unique dialogue. I've missed the boat with Al Lowe and Josh Mandel. I have examined several of the credits that come afterwards, but I've just tended to get a generic response to most of them. Aha, gravestones. Nowadays, gravestones tend to be named after backers, but back when this game was released, or around these times, they used to involve puns or members of the staff. James Ernest Hoffer, although I think this is actually meant to be pronounced Hoffer. Jimmy Hoffa.
Aha! You'd always wondered where Jim E. Hoffer was buried.
Phil Graves, okay.
Looks like your dear friend Philip has passed on. Gee, it seems like only a day or two ago you filled a prescription for him.
Uh-oh.
Oh dear Freddy. Les Monley. Now there's going to be some references that I will not get. I mean, some of these will go over my head. Eric the Unready was an adventure game which I don't think I've actually played. I know of it.
The epitaph reads,
Prudence Brown? This one may need some explaining.
Reboot Hill isn't very creepy. The Coarse Gold Founding Fathers Cemetery Committee couldn't afford creepy. Creepy costs extra.
Ernie Fleabeak. Now this is another one that I do not understand. Ah, Butch Cassidy, or as he's called here, Butch Casualty.
Perched on the top of the post is an angel, her arms outstretched. At the base of the statue is a small plaque which reads, I love you this much. Couldn't you just surrender your lunch?
Her arms? I thought that was a beard. I mean, looking at it even closer, it seems to look like Al Lowe.
The tall stone fence posts are pebbled and worn from years of rain, wind, and tourists. Someone made a mesa the desert. This is world-famous Bad Rock, so called because of the day many years ago that part of it dislodged and just missed a carriage full of students on their way to Chowchilla. It was a black, black day, which is why they eventually turned it into a movie, Black Day at Bad Rock. That's Hyman Undertaker's shop. He's the town undertaker. The place appears to be locked and shuttered. Come to think of it, you haven't seen Hyman in a couple of days. Ordinarily, that'd be suspicious, but given what's been happening in town lately, it seems pretty normal. The sign says, Hyman Untertaker, und you're not. A rickety old fence stands by Collier Bluff, ready to fall down at any second.
Let's give it a hand.
You give it a shake and the whole length of fence quivers. Dry rot and bullet holes have sapped the wood of its strength.
And yet it still stands.
The door to the outhouse is the only part they got right. The rest of it is a real half-assed job. An old abandoned shack stands by the alleyway between Bluff and Main Streets.
Not much privacy, but the ventilation is excellent.
Okay, was this outhouse built without a side wall? Or has it just become worn out in time or damaged?
High in the sky stands the town gallows. Ernest and Julio Gallows brand lynching equipment. We will hang no man before his time. There's no need to touch that.
Oh, why not?
That's Ima Flirt, the lunchroom lady. Of course, since the schoolhouse only consists of one room, there's not much for Ima to do but waltz around town waiting for someone to build a cafeteria. Nice work if you can get it.
Howdy, ma'am.
She smiles at you. If your heart didn't already belong to Penelope, you might be tempted to ask her to join you for a glass of sarsaparilla. It looks like the name of a hard-working employee with a large ego.
Yeah, that's the response that I get to examining any of the people's names in the credits. Now, we do get NPCs walking around the high street. We are currently on the west end of the high street.
This wagon has been lying here in this sad state of disrepair ever since Mr. Leach, the carriage maker, headed back east to Detroit. Here stands the only bank in town, the First Bank of Bob. The founder must have had a hard time coming up with an original name for his establishment. Here stands the only bank in town, the First Bank of Bob. The founder must have had a hard time coming up with an original name for his establishment. That bullet hole has been in the front window of the bank ever since that outlaw came through these parts way back in the demo.
I've recently learnt that the demo is actually a prequel for this game, and I do intend to record a playthrough of it before we start the plot properly in this game.
Here stands the only bank in town, the First Bank of Bob. The founder must have had a hard time coming up with an original name for his establishment.
Whoops, I thought there was a unique dialogue for the doorway.
Matt Shaker is shaking his doormat out the window again. It's best not to walk underneath.
Oh, I thought I was able to catch him. Never mind, I'll catch him next time. Wow. The inside looks a lot more opulent compared to the outside.
You see the green flocked wallpaper, rough-hewn wood floor, and tin tile ceiling of the Bank of Bob, Course Gold's first and probably last financial institution. Sitting behind the counter is P.H. Balance, current owner and operator of the Bank of Bob.
He's a bore and a lice-infested jerk.
Come again? Did you say something, Pharkas?
I said you were more than just a nice, respected clerk.
Oh, that's very different. Please keep your grubby hands to yourself.
Yeah, how would you like me to turn your butt into the old IRS, you goat?
Did you say something?
I said, how I would love a turn at buttoning your old squire's blue coat.
Oh, thank you. I'll button it myself. Have I told you about our new Columbus Day account? It's a full benefit, non-interest bearing account.
A lot of the NPCs in this area, at this point in time, only really have one unique conversation, but speaking to PH Balance several times grants you some rather unique dialogue. Well, I say unique. It's pretty much all about the same subject.
Did you hear about our Easter Club account? We may even make it an interest-bearing account if we can bear to part with the interest. Yes, sir. Our latest Halloween passbook account is very innovative. We give you 0% interest and only charge you a nominal fee. We have a new Yom Kippur savings account. Irving over at the deli in Bass Lake just opened one up. I'm sure he'd recommend it. You know, this is the last day to be eligible for our interest-free Secretary's Day checking account. It's only $27 per month, and we bill your secretary. Soon it'll be time for the St. Patrick's Day promotion. We give you the account, and you give us the green. Tomorrow's my birthday. Leave me a present, and I'll open you a PH Balance Birthday Club account.
I'm pretty sure that is the last one.
This heavy table is where customers fill out bank slips and examine their safe deposit boxes.
Right, I'm going to move Freddy slightly to the left, as his hitbox tends to overlap some of the things in front of him.
There's a register here for new customers. If they sign in, they'll get all the usual brochures prompting them to take advantage of the Bank of Bob's home equity loans and other really smart investments. Thumbing through the bank register, you discover that little Charlie Keaton's kid has an account here.
I guess that's how little acorns grow into mighty oaks, 1 penny at a time.
This quill pen is used to fill out slips and sign registers. You don't need to sign anything.
We could just steal the quill.
These are the teller's stations. There's nothing on the counter to take. It's always nice to see a small town like Coarsegold get some big city tackiness like this horrible chandelier. It's a velvet mural that depicts the driving of the Golden Spike as performed by a toreador and a couple of children with really big, sad eyes.
Cockeyed Bill. Well, I will keep an eye out for him.
A masterful portrait of P.H. Balance's father, Bacillus Ophiclid Balance, or Bob for short. It's got a little plaque. Apparently it doesn't have time to brush between meals. It's Phineas's file cabinet. Phineas H. Balance has cleverly situated a newfangled box camera up in the corner to photograph customers. Only trouble is, most customers don't stand in place for 15 minutes. It's P.H. Balance's clock, eternally set to 3:57 so that he can hustle people out of the bank with a "We're closing in 5 minutes." One of the local plants has been pulled up and potted. You see the green flocked wallpaper, rough-hewn wood floor, and tin tile ceiling of the Bank of Bob, Coarsegold's first and probably last financial institution.
Well, that's not what I was going for, but thank you anyway.
This cute little fence separates the officials only area from the customers and other unwelcome guests area. The vault door is 2 solid feet of case-hardened high-carbon balsa wood, painted gray to look metallic and fool would-be bank robbers. Couple of pretty cameo portraits of P.H. Balance's favorite pin-up girl.
That Carrie Nation is such a looker.
Tut, tut, Freddy, my boy. You can't get in that door without the combination. I'll be happy to bring out your safe deposit box, as long as you've got the key. Mr. Pharkas, those are bank files. They're not for your perusal.
Right, you depraved, rotten old ass.
Excuse me, what was that you said?
I said, you're brave and you've got class.
Oh, yes, that is correct, sir. That area is off limits to everyone except people who work at the bank, Mr. Pharkas.
I guess that leaves you out, eh?
Pardon me? What did you say?
I said, I guess you've got a lot of clout, eh?
Oh, that is correct, sir.
Alright, let's get out of here. Whoa, she's in a rush. Now you may have noticed a couple of cuts. One while entering the bank, and one while exiting the bank. I've encountered a couple of bugs, and unfortunately I've had to re-record a couple of segments, including this one. I'm not sure if it's down to the game itself, or whether it's down to Scum VM.
This is a good place to get hitched. Horses always appreciate a drink of nice fresh water from these green slimy troughs. For one brief shining moment, there truly was a place called Cattle Lot. Smithy the village blacksmith is a real hulk of humanity.
Dadnammit, Pharkas. Real men just don't go around a-touching other real men, especially when they're as homophobic as we is.
As we is? Are you sure about that?
You know, Smithy, I've been wondering about that horse of yours. What happened?
Consarn neighborhood kids, you just can't leave anything outside at night anymore without 'em stripping it right down to the axles.
How's business, Smithy?
Flatter than cowplop, Pharkas. And you?
Actually, I'm doing okay. Not great, but I'm making it, in spite of this mild economic downturn we've been experiencing.
Bah, if I could find me a buyer, I'd unload this dump in a sec.
Oh, there she is again.
Once, Coarse Gold's brave pioneer settlers predicted Main Street would rival the Champs-Élysées, Van Ness Boulevard, or Broadway. Now it rivals the Oregon Trail and is about as smooth.
Dare I try again?
Carrie Sue ought to be in school, but she's wandering the streets instead.
I don't think that I will be quick enough to speak to her.
Smithy is proud to have the biggest forge in the Sierra.
Yeah, talking about Sierra, Coarse Gold is actually a real place, and at the time of this game's release, it was the hometown of, well, the headquarters of Sierra Online were actually based in Coarse Gold.
Apparently, most of the lower half of the horse is in a chop shop somewhere in Los Angeles by now. Never approach a horse from the rear, for several reasons, at least one of which is utterly disgusting.
Poor girl. Did some vandals come by and strip you down?
Stop being silly. No one can talk to a horse, of course. Smithy keeps some hay baled up here just for while the horses are in the shop.
If we keep heading west, we head out of town, but I'm not going to explore this area just yet. Something that... oh, hello.
Hey, Matt, quit that! You're getting dust all over everything.
Funny, Matt pays no attention to you.
Oh, here she is again.
You can't think of anything to say to that.
Wow, that's quite rude, unless I misclicked.
You can't think of anything to say to that.
Okay, let's just head onwards. Yeah, the reason why I will not head out of town just yet will become clear a bit later on.
Madam had this gazebo built as part of her real old-fashioned romance special, which cost an additional $1.25. It was never used. Coarse Gold is filled with unromantic cheapskates.
Madame, maybe I should find out who Madame actually is.
Located on this rocky hillside is Madame Overy's place of business, a custom-built bawdy house built in the fashion of the pastel Gothics. Of course, they had to get the rocks off the property before they could build here. You can't see into the brothel from out here, but Madame does cater to peeping toms, and at a slight discount.
Oh, that's good to know.
That's the door to the brothel. Ye Old Ore House usually isn't open during the day. Wait until dark, cowboy. You can't think of anything to say to that.
Alright, that was a bit of a whim. I thought I'd try at least call up to someone. But no, never mind. Oh.
Contemplating duck dinner, Freddy? Talking to ducks? Desperate for company?
Always.